Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. I have a very special guest, someone that has been in our lives for a long time. She's an amazing agent. She's very inspirational. She's a Harris certified coach. She's part of our EXP group. And I think you guys, I know you're going to love what you learn from Miss Ziggy Zigouras. I told you I wouldn't get it right.
Close enough.
I've only called her Ziggy, honestly. The whole time I've known her, I've never used her last name. So I had to have her help me to learn to say her last name prior to today's show. And clearly I did a bad job learning. So Ziggy, if they want to get a hold of you, because they will after listening to what you have to say today, what is your cell phone number so they can text you?
Absolutely. My cell phone number is 914-474-4625.
And you are in what? So let's start out by giving them a little bit of background on you and the market that you sell in, what's going on in the market, all the rest of it. Because like all of our Harris certified coaches, Ziggy is actually, selling real estate. That's one of the requirements if you work with us as part of our coaching staff. Otherwise, it's obviously, you're not going to be as effective because you want to be experiencing what your clients are experiencing. So Ziggy, tell them about your market.
Yeah, so I'm in New York, what's called upstate New York. I'm about an hour and a half north of New York City. More rural area, suburba, it's a new word, suburban. We have a lot of a variety of neighborhoods, communities, mostly rural. But it's a hot market because we're so close to New York City. We have a lot of migration up from New York City. So actually, probably 80% of my business for the last 4 years has been people relocating from New York City.
Relocating permanently or buying second homes, like getting out of the city?
Both. So there's been a lot of second home owners have become permanent residents, and a lot of their friends have become full-time residents. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's it. So what was your market prior to COVID? Because I know this all took off for you guys during COVID, that market. So what was it prior to COVID?
Yeah, we've always been kind of a tourist destination because of the mountains. There's a lot of rock climbing, a lot of outdoor activities up here. But during COVID, man, we exploded, and definitely, I think we doubled in size as far as what's the word I'm looking for?
Population.
Population. Yes, thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, we exploded. And, a lot of, like I said, a lot of weekenders or vacation homeowners became full-time residents. And I haven't had, for 3 years, I didn't have a local buyer. And I just closed 2 local buyers. The rest of my business has been, from out of the area or out of state.
That's awesome. So if you don't mind me embarrassing you, do you mind swinging your computer so that they can see your dry erase boards?
My dry erase boards.
So one of the things that we have you guys do as coaching clients is we want you to keep all of your business front and center, not hiding it away in a CRM. But truthfully, she looks like she needs to do a little bit of cleanup on those boards. But you'll see that one of her boards is for listings. Well, you explain it, Ziggy. Explain to
Yeah,
them.
let me just take so this is also my note board, which is a really bad habit, but these are all the buyers that I've gotten in the last 2 weeks. But generally speaking, these are my listings, these are pendings, and then these are sold. It's not completely up to date, but I also take a lot of notes. I also have some coming soons. So at any given point, I can tell on if I'm on track, ahead or behind, right? Really, it's the visual accountability. As soon as I walk in that door, I see these boards and I'm either excited or panic.
Well, explain to them why, because it's a cycle. You're basically just gaming yourself psychologically. So explain to the viewers why.
Absolutely. So, right here, this is all blank space. This means that I have to go get more listings. When I move them down to pendings, this becomes white space again. When they close from pendings, again, I have white space. So that is my pipeline. So it really helps to keep track of my pipeline. I have it all in digital format as well. But that's out of sight, out of mind. This is front and center. I can't ignore it.
That's right. And so just the number of listings that you have, the number of listings that you're supposed to have, Ziggy, what's that number?
The number is 12 and I have 3.
Okay, because obviously you're selling listings, thus the pendings, right? So
Thus the pendings.
so your focus right now is obviously replacing, 9 listings ASAP. That's what I'm sure your best energies are going towards.
Absolutely, it is. And so I have 7 coming soons. They're all in varying stages of prep, right? So I do track them here as well so that I can, because again, I mean, things happen really fast, and these are all of these buyers are, either sign calls or referrals, and I don't necessarily have a buyer's board. My buyer's board is full of other things over here. So I put them here front and center so that, again, that I could keep track of them rather easily. If they're blue, I keep it color coded. If they're blue, it means that they're a listing. If they're black, it means that they're a buyer. Just so that I can tell at any given point if that person is, what that person's status is as far as, what their goal is.
I wrote down a whole bunch of questions for you.
Sure.
So one of the questions is something you just said. So first of all, why focus on sellers? It should be obvious, but a lot of people have never really had the mindset of focusing on sellers. Why do you focus on listings?
I focus on listings because it's the best use of my time. I'm leveraging my time the best with listings. And I had this conversation the other day with an agent who, likes to focus on buyers. One of her deals fell through, and she now has to go find another home for that person to buy. And I said, well, that's why I focus on listings, because if my deal falls through, I still have the listing. It's just a matter then of finding another buyer. When that thing closes, I'm still making, whatever I had negotiated.
So which buyers, because you have a lot of buyers in your board, I'm kind of surprised to be honest with you. Which of
So am
those,
I. I don't know where
yeah,
they came from.
well, I'm sure you're looking for the buyers that also have homes to sell too. I'm sure you're looking for
Yes,
that. But
yes.
what is a buyer like? I'm sure, very particular about what buyers you'll choose to work with. So what are your minimum standards for the buyers you choose to work with?
Ready, willing, and able. And if they have something to sell, even better. So ideally, they would be a cash buyer, highly motivated, somebody who is knocking down my door. And that is that is at least half of this list. They are knocking down my door. What I struggle with, Tim, is they're all personal referrals.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not somebody that I would necessarily refer out, but I am partnering with somebody on my team locally to help me show them houses.
Well, right. I mean, you're part of EXP Realty, and you can obviously have agents that you're going to work that are going to work with as part of your team that you can refer all those buyer leads out to. So if you guys haven't put 2 and 2 together here, she's with EXP Realty, and if you're looking for a great sponsor, whether you're in her local market or you're someplace else in the world, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to Ziggy. You guys can obviously see already why she's one of our favorites. So Ziggy, what's your cell phone number again?
914-474-4625.
All right. So when you are choosing which buyers to work with, you said highly motivated where they're chasing you. I understood what that meant, but what are the other criteria that you search for? Like before you actually will do anything other than the cursory getting to know you and here's some information, and they actually want to start taking a lot of your physical time, showing houses and the rest of it, and you live in a rural area, so you're talking about drive times in between and a lot of probably pre-showing, a lot of work. How do you decide which, if they don't have a house to sell, but they are a referral, at what point, like, what do they have to actually do to earn your service?
Yeah, they either have to have the proof of funds, or pre-qualification. If they haven't already taken some of those steps to get that paperwork in order, that's the first thing that I have them do. And I partner them with one of my lenders, and a lot of times I'll even take a cash buyer and have them get pre-qualified anyway, just in case, because sometimes they'll shift gears at the last minute, like, hey, you know what? I really don't want to spend all my cash. I'd rather go for a mortgage. So I'll have them get that done up front. And as part of that process, my lender helps me qualify them and their motivation, because if they're not willing to talk to a lender, how motivated are they really? And then the other side of that is a buyer agreement. Talking to them about the buyer agreement, making sure that I'm going to get paid, because I do a lot of off-market deals. So I'll go hunting for properties, whether it's for sale by owner or something that, isn't even on the market. So I want to make sure that I'm going to get paid. If they push back on that, they may not be as motivated as I thought they were.
Well, push back on any of those points, right? If they're not willing to
Exactly.
prove that they can, actually pay for the house, if they're not willing to sign an exclusive buyer agency contract. So I want to really point out to everyone that's listening and watching, you guys, we have been teaching agents since forever, 20 years, 25 years, to always use exclusive buyer agency contracts, no exceptions. Because if you lose, if you, first of all, it differentiates two benefits. A, it's going to make it so that she's not working with unmotivated people. But B, and this is a little counterintuitive, but it's true, you are actually going to prove that you're more valuable because you value yourself more to that potential buyer versus, Bob, who just will show up anytime to open a door for somebody. And hopefully that, he's proving his lack of professionalism, not his professionalism. So Ziggy, when you're presenting the exclusive, because now it's the law of the land, or at least it will be sometime this year, that all agents have to be working with exclusive. How do you help your coaching clients in Premier Coaching? How do you help them move past their, really, it's fear of asking for exclusives to be signed, especially when they're centers of influence and past clients? That's mostly who their buyers are.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And realistically, I always tell people, treat your mom as you would a stranger, because your mom is more likely to screw you over. Really, that's what it comes down to. My parents, my friends are more likely to go find another deal with somebody else than a stranger would, right? Oddly enough, a stranger is going to be more committed to working with me than somebody that I may know. And it's really coming from a place of, service, because I want to make sure that they're working with somebody that knows what they're doing, that's professional, and that can get the job done, rather than leaving them to fend for themselves amongst a bunch of wolves. So if they sign with me, I feel like I can protect them from the unknowns of working with somebody else, and I kind of present it that way as well.
Yep. And in Premier Coaching, there's a whole section, I don't remember which section, I think it's section 6, that's basically 100% focused. There's a buyer, there's a whole presentation. Julie and I are actually personally updating that now, where you're going to present to prospective buyers why they should work exclusively with you, what the benefits of working with you entail, how that benefits them, but also all the things you're going to do. And she mentioned a lot of it: working with builders, working for sale by owners, actually going into communities where, knocking on doors if it's necessary to find an unlisted property, notice the defaults, if there are any, probate, whatever. She's going to do everything. And she lays it all out, explains to them what she's going to do. She's not just turning on the MLS. She's not just waiting for something to come for sale. And then the buyer is going to see that this gal is going way above and beyond to really do a great job helping them find a home. And then they're going to want to sign the exclusive contract because they want to work with you. Working with you when you're presenting the value of that level, your unique selling propositions, is going to, like I said, it's going to give you an advantage in the marketplace. It should be self-evident to everyone. By the way, you guys can join Premier Coaching for free. Just go to premiercoaching.com, premiercoaching.com. All right, so more questions. Lead generation. You're obviously a kick butt lead generator. What are your primary lead generators? And let the listeners know.
Yeah, absolutely. Primary lead generators are Sphere, expireds for sale by owners, probate, really, and off market. Like I said, I do go hunting for properties if our MLS is really slim right now with offering. So I've always done that, right? So I tell people, pick a neighborhood, tell me, find a house that you would like to live in. I will go see if that, seller is interested in selling. And it's not even to get the listing necessarily, it's to find that buyer a home. And then if that's not a fit, then I'll go for the listing. But yeah, Sphere, staying in touch with people. Actually, I'm just putting on a client appreciation event next week. My first actually ever. It's been on my list of things to do, but to show some love to the people that I've done deals with, or I have sent me referrals in the last 4 years since COVID started. Sphere, really having conversations. I mean, it could be with the person standing next to me in the coffee line. I don't care who I talk to, because realistically, what's that saying? When you're a hammer, everything is a nail. When you're a realtor, everybody's a prospect, right? Because everybody.
But everyone is, Ziggy. I mean, it's the truth.
Absolutely.
Everyone is. Everyone, while you are alive, and even after you're not alive anymore, you need a place to live, right? You're going to be someplace. And so every single person that you're ever around, that's the best. People don't get that with real estate. It's amazing.
I know.
You're selling something that everybody needs, unlike virtually everything else that's for sale. I mean, you don't need window coverings every day. You don't, all these things, right? All these things that, I don't need it. I don't need to buy a new shirt, right? But you always need a place to live. And the amazing thing right now, there's so much pent up demand that there's an app. Well, as Julie and I just did a podcast, there's for every one listing, there's 3 offers, right? And so you're selling something, especially when you're focused on being a listing agent like she is, that you are going to have a never ending demand for your product. And guess what? You don't actually have to create the product. You just have to create the listing. It's it's, in my opinion, the best business for any business-minded entrepreneur to get into. For all the, the barriers to entry are very low. But if you're willing to do what you don't want to do and you don't want to do it at the highest level, you can make so much money and help so many people. It's extraordinary.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
really quick. And what you say is absolutely true, right? Everybody needs a place to live, and everybody has something to, that they're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in. I have a new listing coming up in a couple of weeks that is from the loan officer of one of my buyer clients. On a phone call with him, having a conversation. He's like, "Oh, actually, I own property in your area." I was like, "Great. Have you thought about selling it? Because it's a great time." He had no idea what his property was worth. He doesn't live locally. And so, that's a new listing coming up. So really, everybody is a prospect.
Yep. I'm going to take a half step back. Your sources of business are, and again, actually, can you explain the spokes on the wheel analogy? Can you explain that so they
Absolutely.
can understand?
Absolutely.
This is one
So
of the, well, this is one of the key fundamental understandings you have to have. This is elemental in all of our coaching programs. It's called, what Julie and I called, the spokes on the wheel. Ziggy?
yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a great analogy because, you can visualize it, right? So the visual is a wheel, bicycle wheel or wagon wheel, whatever. And it has spokes, and the more spokes you have, the more stable that wheel is going to be. So if you're just a one spoke wonder, you're not going to do so great if you hit a bump in the road. So sphere of influence really is, the core of, is of my business. I think accounts for 70 to 80% of my business is sphere of influence and referrals.
Very
Uh,
simple. That's basically the concept.
there you go. Nice wheel, Tim.
Thank
Uh,
you. The circle is
so
pretty
my
surprisingly good.
spokes,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it was good. Even pretty solid circle. My spokes are sphere of influence, past clients, which I've started to call, Tim. I've started to call them perpetual clients because they're
I,
not just past.
I was about to actually ask you that since you started on that. So you're calling your centers of influence and past clients. I heard you mention doing client appreciation events. Are you doing anything else for centers of influence and past clients? Are you mailing them stuff? Are you drop kits? Describe to the listeners.
Yep. Yep. I do a weekly newsletter to my sphere and past clients. Just random stuff. And it always ends with, some events for the weekend in case they want to do anything. But it's, informational. And there's always a link in there for my latest listings and a home value that they can click on, or a market report. And I do call regularly. What's nice about this customer appreciation event is in the last 2 weeks, I've contacted them at least 4 times in 4 different ways, right? With a text, with an email, with an invite, and then a follow-up call. So even if they can't make it, which, a lot of them can't, I'm having conversations with them, they're receiving information. And then there'll be the fifth step, which is the follow-up, thanks for coming. Sorry, we missed you.
Yep. But you are calling them. You mentioned that you're starting to
Yes.
call them. So
Oh, yeah.
when you call them, like, how do you organize it? Let's just break it down so we can make this as practical as possible.
Sure.
You have how many people on your list?
On my invite list, 200.
Okay, so you have 200 centers of influence and past clients, basically.
Yep.
Right. So how do you organize how have you made that habitual, and tell them how you have that organized, and then also share with them what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have it organized by, and it's a constant pruning and weeding process, right? Because there's some people that I thought were A's in my list, or, high priority, that, either constantly refer me business, or, whatever the criteria is. Over time, they don't call me back. They never get back. They don't respond to emails, whatever that looks like. So I've weeded them out and replaced them with somebody that is more engaged with my process, right?
Okay, let me ask you a
Sure.
question. Sorry for interrupting you. I
No, it's
really want
fine.
to get it. Yeah, because you're doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
A lot of agents believe that they win the centers of influence and past client game by putting everybody and their brother, even the non-responsive ones, and they build some psychological, warm, cozy blanket around the idea that they have a billion people in their CRMs. And that's the exact opposite of what it takes to be successful working your centers of influence and past clients. And hopefully you guys understood what she just said. was that she is going through and looking for reasons to remove them if they're non-responsive. That way she can focus more energy and work at a higher level on a smaller group of people. That is incredibly important. So for those of you who guys have been lulled into believing that you can win the Centers of Influence of Past Client game by having a ton of people in your list, the exact opposite is actually true.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important, right? For a long time, I had 2,000 people in my database, and they're still in my database, but they are not my sphere of influence and people that I stay actively engaged and regularly in touch with, just because 2,000 is too much, right? And so they're on the drip campaign, right? If they ever resurface, fantastic. They'll move into that 200. But in the meantime, they'll receive a monthly newsletter, and every now and then somebody will resurface, right? I send out quarterly, I'll send out are you in a ditch? Are you still engaged? Or are you dead? Please answer ABC, right? And that'll inevitably stir up one or two people that have been on the sidelines, waiting. They're busy, they have all the things happening, but they're like, nope, I'm still here. Here's just what's happening, right? We'll re-engage in the spring or whatever they're so that's been a really powerful just quick update. And it's funny.
It is funny. I was just wondering if the dead person responds, but that's not.
They never
They
respond.
don't. Then you remove them. I mean, that's self-sorting. So they never respond. Of course not. All right. So you have 200 people, obviously, building the list slowly, being very selective. And then you're calling, did you divide the list by the number of work days, the 20 work days in the week, or in the, 25, whatever it is? How do you go about deciding how many you're going to contact every day?
Yeah, I did divide them, and actually, let me grab this really quick, because how I keep track is rather crude. I'm a very tactile person, so I actually keep track of people with index cards.
I mean, that's the best way to do it, because it's in front of you.
Yeah, it's right here. I can take it with me if I need to, right? And then I'll remember who I need to call. And if I call them and they don't answer, I move them to tomorrow. If I call and they answer and I speak with them, I'll move them to next week. And I have a couple other, tomorrow, next week, next month. So it helps me keep track of them in a quick and easy way. I also have them all in a database with their information and their phone numbers in KV Core. So I'll then eventually go in and update that, make some notes. But this I can just grab and take with me.
All right, that makes perfect sense. So when you're calling them, what are you saying? I mean, you're calling all these folks once a month.
Right.
So are you, I mean, I assume you're using our scripts, but I mean, what is it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always using your scripts, which most of them I've finally internalized and then personalized. Some of them I personalized first, and I found out why that's not the recommended approach.
Well, hold on. We can't assume we're preaching to the choir. So when it comes to a script, the first thing you should do is memorize it. Then you should internalize it, and then you should personalize it. What she just said is funny because it's so true. That's what everyone does. What most agents will do is they'll never, like, if you don't, you have to memorize it, even if you don't understand why the questions are written in the order, because all a script is a bunch of questions, why they're written in a specific order. Because if you don't memorize it first, and by memorizing, you can just have it in front of you on a wall when you're calling folks. It's not, eventually you will internalize it, which is the second step, where then all of a sudden the questions that were once on the script are now in your head, and you understand, having used it, why the questions are written in the order in which they work is, one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, leads to success. And then you can personalize it. And personalize it would be, for example, if you're, in a part of the country where you say y'all, I mean, Julie and I used to live in Austin, or you're in upstate New York where maybe people have different little, nuances to how they communicate with each other. You definitely want to integrate that, but do not skip to personalizing a script until you've memorized it, until you've internalized it. Otherwise, you're never going to be effective with the scripts. And then you're just going to say, well, I'm just not a person that uses scripts. It's because you never used the script correctly in the first place. A script is nothing more than a tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did, Tim, just a really quick story. I lost a listing. I didn't even know I lost the listing because I didn't ask the question, right? The question, which home in the neighborhood are you thinking of selling, right? So I found out the hard way when my buyer client said, oh, we just accepted an offer on our house. And I was like, what are you talking about? Accepted an offer on your house? I never asked the question. So I was not the listing agent, and they didn't realize that I could also be their listing agent. So,
okay, again, this is she said something powerful. So when you have a buyer that shows up in your life, and this is all in our scripts, it's all in Premier Coaching. It's usually the first or second question, and you say, they'll call on, maybe you're calling them back or they're calling you and they're asking about 123 Elm Street. You say, let me check on the update, make sure there's no, let me get the exact updated information, make sure that home's available. And then without skipping even a millisecond, go, oh, by the way, which house in the neighborhood are you thinking about selling? And what you'll find, especially in this market where there's a lot of sellers, where there's a lot of people that are waiting to put their homes for sale when there's more inventory, you're going to discover that your buyers that show up in your life as buyers, oh, just a buyer, you're going to discover that probably a half of them at least have homes to sell. I mean, the reason there was 33% of all transactions in first quarter of this year were cash buyers. And those cash buyers didn't just save up their money in a savings jar, they were previous homeowners. So always assume every buyer is a seller until proven otherwise. And that's one of the greatest ways to build listing inventory, by the way, which leads me to my next question, unless you have a thought you want to build on that.
No, go ahead.
All right, so we talked about spokes in the wheel, which was awesome. We talked about the fact that are you buying leads? Do you buy leads?
No, I don't buy leads. I've never bought leads. I bought some shiny things early on, but you helped me quash that rather quickly.
Well, it's because of buying leads has just gotten worse since when we first met,
Yeah.
because it's gotten more and more expensive. I don't know if you knew this, Ziggy. I'm sure you do, but Zillow Flex agents are paying 40% referral fees now to those for buyer leads. It boggles the mind. It just truly does.
A lot of the referral companies have gone to 35 and 40%, which is just, every now and then I'll get a referral from a referral company. I'll take it just because I know that I can pull business off of that listing, especially if it's a listing.
Yep.
I want to throw up every time though I have to pay that referral fee, but I know that I've been able to utilize it to my benefit.
What'd she say? If it's a straight up referral where it's not somebody trying to, weasel their way in on your deal after you have the relationship, those are always the worst type of referral fees when reload companies do that. But she's saying if she has a reload or a lead selling company offer to sell her a listing lead that she wouldn't have otherwise gotten, and if she has to pay a referral fee on that, and she knows that she can generate potentially other sellers from that listing, she's all in 100%. But the idea of just paying a referral fee or buying a buyer lead, honestly, that's the path to obscurity, if not complete failure. Because Ziggy, if you want buyer leads in this industry, and this has always been true, always will be true, just be a listing agent. I mean, that's the thing that people, so here, let's have some fun with it. So for every one listing, how many buyer leads do you think you generally attract?
For everyone listing, how many, but at least 5 solid buyer leads and 1 listing.
Hold on a second.
All right.
All right, so let's talk about why you don't buy leads. I mean, buying buyer leads. So when you're coaching a new agent, right? You're, premier coach for us. When you're coaching a new agent and they need to generate business now, and they're basically, many people get into the real estate business and they don't have, a big war chest of money that they're going to be able to live off of. So they need to generate business now. In those cases, would you advocate or would you suggest that they maybe buy a buyer lead when given the opportunity to, in terms of paying a referral fee?
I definitely suggest that they pay a referral fee. Sign up for the all the referral companies, because some is better than none, right? At the end of the day. And then I tell them to, let's make a list of your top 100 closest friends, and start calling them. Well, is it okay if I text them is always the next question. Or can I email them? No, call them. We want to call them, have the conversations.
Isn't that funny though, that you just said that? Shouldn't that be obvious? But everyone always, oh my gosh, Ziggy, you're triggering me today. Because that's the thing that drives me, like, do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And okay, so what does that mean? Write down a list, listener and viewer, of all the things that you will never do in your real estate business. Write down the list now. I bet you many of you will never, you're going to avoid picking up the phone. It's rude. I don't want to be an imposition to people. I don't want to interrupt people. You're never going to call it FSBO. You're never going to call it expired. You're never going to call. You're never going to put yourself in a position where you can feel rejected. Am I right? Probably am. So if you write down a list of the things you'll never do in your real estate business and to generate leads, I bet you, if you allow yourself to have the little, connecting of the neurons, realize that those are the very things that are going to put you in front of the most motivated people the quickest, which result in you making the most net profit. So Ziggy, have you ever had a struggle with being a pro? And I already know the answer because I remember you 5 or 6 years ago. Did you ever struggle with being a proactive lead generator, and how did you move past it? A proactive lead generator is basically somebody that goes out and generates their own leads. So how did you move past it if you ever did?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when I first got into the business, and your coaching program, I was buying all the shiny things, looking for that easy button. And let me tell you, I spent thousands of dollars and it does not exist. Right? So I eventually discovered that and accepted it. And, in order to become a proactive lead generator, I had to put myself in a position of being of service. And I wasn't in that position before. And it's hard to understand what that means if you've never been there. And I have this conversation all the time with people, because the answer to that, the response to that is, I don't want to, I feel silly asking my friends for business. I don't want to, be in a position, I don't want to be a salesperson. Well, you are a salesperson. I don't feel like a salesperson. I feel like a connector. And it's, so anyway, but yeah, really getting past that is putting myself in a position of service, and I have it sitting right here, right? Pick up the phone and be of service. That is what I have in front of my face every single day.
Let me interject something, okay? So really what she's talking about is everyone forever is going to have a natural abhorrence to wanting to be put themselves in a position where they're going to be rejected. That's called natural. And the only way to move past that, or one of the most effective ways to do that, is move your mind out of that egotistical fear space and be of service. So, and this is something that I learned on a coaching call forever, and she just said it too, is that like, you can have somebody as a coaching client who's got all their scripts memorized, internalized, and personalized. And when you role play with them, they're like, wow, you're amazing. But then if you listen to them, this is, from coaching experience, you listen to them actually doing the calls, you'll hear somebody who's 100% route fear, and you can hear it in their voice. You can hear it how they interact. They're doing everything they possibly can to get the hell off the phone. They want to avoid that, that pang of insecurity. So how do you move past that? You write down on a piece of paper, like Ziggy just said, I'm here to be of service to you. So when you are making that call, when you start to feel that buildup of fear inside of yourself, look on those words. I'm here to be of service to you. And here's what you'll discover on the other side of that. That the grumpiest people are the people that will present as a little bit, aggressive, let's say, and it's not that many. It's maybe, I don't know. What do you think? 1 out of 10, 1 out of
1 out
20?
of 10, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the most motivated. Otherwise, they wouldn't be reacting emotionally like that. They're the ones under the most pressure to transact, especially if it's an expired. I mean, maybe this house expired, and you gotta be of service to them. So why did the house expire? How does that seller actually feel? The market rejected their house. And if it was a personal house that they personally lived in, raised their families, they feel personally rejected. If you think like that, and then you're going to start being of service, you have empathy for them. And then you can help move them towards, so Mr. Seller had this home sold, where would you go next? Those types of conversations we teach you to do in Premier Coaching. What do you think, Ziggy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, that came, also from a personal experience, because I reflected back on when my own house expired. I was embarrassed. I was angry. I was all of the things. And that's why I got my license, because I was like, it can't be that hard. But I thought about how I felt and how the agent that did get my house sold responded to me, and it was from a place of service and a place of empathy. And so, it made total sense when I listened to that part of that call that you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, with Jeff. So you said you don't think of yourself as a salesperson. What does that mean that you don't think of yourself as a salesperson? What
Well,
does being a salesperson mean to you?
yeah, and I'm not even sure, right? I don't feel salesy, but I'm definitely persuasive. So maybe I am a salesperson. But when I think of a salesperson, and I probably think of what everybody else thinks of, right? Some, used car salesperson that's underhanded, and I'm not underhanded, and that's not. But a lot of people think of salespeople as being underhanded, and I think when you come from an honest, empathetic place of service, that we're giving a new name to, or a new persona to, what salespeople are.
Yeah, I agree. And so the highest paid people in the history of history, you've heard me say this a billion times, are salespeople. And there was a great book or an interview, something I came across this information a long time ago. And this guy I heard this from a doctor, I heard this from an engineer, all these folks that you would think would be this far away from being salespeople as you possibly can imagine. And I also actually came up against this when I was selling real estate. I went to a listing appointment, and the guy's name was Dr. Paula. And I'm sure he still lives in New Albany Country Club, but I went to this house. It was this one of the most amazing homes I've ever seen before. And I was super nervous. This guy owned hundreds of properties. He was buying his investments. And he must have sensed my nervousness, like I said. I'm getting nervous just from having this memory, honestly. And he walked in, we had a little nice exchange, and he said, you know, you and I are in the same business. And I thought, well, what is he talking about? He goes, we're both salespeople. And I asked him what he meant. He said, he was a cardiologist. That was his full-time job. He wasn't a real estate investor full-time. He was a cardiologist. And he had his own cardiology practice that he drove to every single day, whole thing. And he goes, I have to sell people into doing procedures. Otherwise, I won't have much of a practice. So I have to convince people. These are basically what Dr. Paula said to me. I have to convince people to do what's in their best interest. And having this conversation with him, it really, for me, it connected a lot of dots. This was Julie and I were probably in the business maybe 4 or 5 years. And so this connected a lot of dots because everyone has grown up believing that salespeople are manipulative snakes that you must avoid. And some of them are, but the truth is the best salespeople in the world are what Ziggy said, they're problem solvers. And if you just think of yourself as being a problem solver, which, buying and selling real estate is a problem that needs to be solved. And you also got to remember, a lot of people are under so much stress when they transact. It's one of the most stressful things ever. So you're a problem solver. You're gonna, take care of all the things that are gonna be the things that could be the fly in the ointment for them transacting, let alone potentially cause them pain and harm. And you're going to help them actually accomplish the goal of buying or selling real estate. When you put yourself in a place like that, the shiny objects become less attractive. The gimmicks become less attractive because then you're saying, damn it, you know what? I am a problem solver. I love how that feels. I can wear that, and that makes me feel proud of myself. Then now the next natural thought you're going to have is, how the hell do I get better at it? How do I make it so that I can be in a position to help more people? What do I have to do now to make it so that I can earn the right to be a listing agent or earn the right to help that person buy a house? It has to come from my skills. And so what are you thinking, Ziggy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was the next logical step for me, right? Was having that realization and then realizing that I didn't have the necessary skills to make that happen.
Well,
So
that's
where
the
did I
big thing.
go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know you didn't have the necessary skills, or did you know prior from tell me, how did that bridge that for me? How do you go from here to here? How do you go from Ziggy to Ziggy realizing that she's that it's the stages of learning, right? Unconscious incompetence, unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, unconscious. You had the 4
Yep.
stages of learning. This is the reason I need Julie all the time because she has all this stuff memorized. But you were in the position of acknowledging the fact that you didn't know what you thought you knew. So how did you go from that and sucking up the acceptance of the fact that you have a lot to learn to becoming the superstar that you are?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had to get humble, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. And then I realized rather quickly that, I was successful in real estate dealing with my sphere, but I realized, that was my first year or so. I realized that was going to get old quick because not all of my friends are ready, willing, and able to buy and sell on a regular basis. So what was the next step? And I looked to some of the top agents in my area, like, where are they getting all this business? And I realized that I didn't need to recreate the wheel and that somebody had already done it for me. So, I got humble, realized that I needed some help, and that's when I reached out for coaching.
So tell me the profile of a coaching client that instantaneously is going to be really successful. You get that vibe, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Somebody that's willing to listen, somebody that's driven and has a high level of commitment.
So when you tell them, for example, make it practical. So someone's coming to you and they're wanting to generate listing leads, and you tell them what to do as far as actually, doing the real work of real estate, which is being a proactive lead generator, and you tell them to do those things and they resist. Do you spend a lot of time trying to move them past that? If they're all like, I want to build my brand, I want to do the marketing, I want to, do a lot of hoping and praying that the leads come to me. How do you move someone that you think has the potential to move them to the next stage?
I'll share a story or two and then I'll let them, do their thing. Sometimes, sometimes you always say something on the podcast, smart people learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
Learn from their mistakes, geniuses, whatever, learn from others. Some people have to make some of those mistakes early on, right? Because they can't get past it any other way. So I'll let them make their mistakes, and then sometimes they will come back. Other times they won't. And, so, no, I will spend some time, but not a whole lot of time trying to, force feed somebody that information.
When someone says agents should be focusing all their best energies on working on their brand, what do you think when you hear those words?
I roll my eyes, and I think that's awful advice.
Well, tell the
I
listeners why.
Yeah, well, because I'm my brand, you're your brand, right? And the best way to build your brand is to get out there and sell real estate and to help people solve their problems, really. And that speaks for itself.
So what's the allure? What's the allure of building your brand? What's the implied benefit of building your brand? What do they think that they're going to get from spending all their best energies building their brand, being social media influencers, doing all these things? What do they think is going to happen as a result, and what actually happens?
I think that they think that they're going to get recognition or recognized or be, whatever, local celebrities, and that the business is just going to come flooding in. And that's the farthest thing from the truth.
Right. So brand has been the word brand, and the way a lot of people are sold into spending a lot of money. And listeners, I would imagine there are billions of dollars that are spent by real estate practitioners every single year on shiny objects, right? And by the way, this is one of the biggest ones, because there's a lot that spawns from this. What you all are being largely convinced of is that branding is going to hack reputation. In other words, if you build this brand of being successful, even though you're not really successful, success is defined by helping other people buy or sell real estate, and you've not done that at a high level because you're focused all on your branding. I mean, aside from the fact that you're spending a lot of money and time that could be better used to actually learn how to be a powerful listing agent, you have been convinced into believing what is a lie. And the lie is simply that when people see your marketing and advertising, that by itself is going to trigger them to want to respond to you. But here's what we know. Basically, everyone chooses a service professional, be it a roofer, be it a candlestick maker, be it a real estate agent, based on someone that they've used in the past or a referral from a trusted friend or advisor. I believe 87%, if I'm remembering this correctly, of everyone, you listeners, Ziggy, me, Julie, everyone, when you're faced with the decision, who am I going to use to solve this particular problem? You're going to ask yourself, who do I know who I've used in the past who's been successful at solving that problem for me? And if you don't know somebody, then you're going to ask a trusted friend or advisor. And the number of people that actually respond to advertising is usually less than 5%. So, and yet when you get in the industry, everyone's being told to advertise, 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 which is what branding really is. It's just advertising. Now, why are you believing that message is, why do you believe it's going to work? Because everyone's telling you that that's what they do. But if you actually were to ask a top producing agent where their business came from, guaranteed that it's centers of influence and past clients. Guaranteed if they've been in the business for 5 years or more, a majority of their business is coming from centers of influence and past clients. And where did they originally get that business? It's because they did what they didn't want to do when they didn't want to do it at the highest level. I've had people in these interviews before, like Ziggy, and Ziggy is super honest about it, who almost feel social pressure to say they're into branding, say they're into advertising, say they're into all of these things, because it's so against the current trend to be honest that if you want long-term ever increasing levels of success in business and your personal life, do what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do it at the highest level. That is not a message that you can sell. Like, the branding people, the marketing people, they're never going to say that. So just keep that in mind. If you want ever increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, you truly do have to do what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do it at the highest level. And there is a ... for a hell of a lot longer than you think you should have to. What are you thinking, Ziggy?
Oh, absolutely. And it is, right? I mean, it's a simple business. It's not an easy one. And you do have to, the things that you do, the things that work, the things that you hone in on, you do have to do them more often and longer than you would expect. And that's, I think, true with anything, right? Whether it's working out or eating healthy or whatever it is. But yeah, no, great point.
So what percent of when you make, $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, what is your gross versus net? Like, what are your expenses of your business? What kind of margins are you running in your business?
I didn't know there was going to be a test. I run a very lean, business model. So I'd say probably 80%, I keep 80% of my profits.
I bet you keep more than that, Ziggy.
I might.
You do. I mean, what are your business expenses? You know off the top of your head. You do because you
Uh,
don't have any.
yeah, very little. I mean, some basic, whether it's average postcards, whatever it is that I do for just listed, just sold on a new listing. So probably 1,000, realistically 1,000 a month. It's very, very little.
What do you seem like I know you are you're a very positive person. I never talked to you and you weren't always smiling. You radiate a lot of wonderful energy.
Thank
So
you.
when you don't feel when are there days when you feel down? Are there days when you feel discouraged?
Absolutely. It's not all sunshine, unicorns and rainbows. And, I just went through a divorce. So this last year has been, heck for me, right? So that was definitely a challenge. And, picking myself up, every day, pulling up, it was a challenge. And, what did I do? I had to reach out to some trusted, friends and, people in my local community and, help get me back on my feet because it was just, it was rough. But, anytime I'm in that scenario, I think about who I can help. Go get a listing. Who can I help? Right? Really get out of myself, volunteer, whatever it is that I have to do. Look at somebody other than myself because, nothing good happens there. It's a downward spiral.
Well, so explain that. So if someone's in a dark place right now where they're not, where they realize that they've been in this, because the problem with allowing yourself to stay in a place where you're depressed is that people have a tendency just to reinforce those mental and emotional states. So they'll start watching the news, they'll start basically filling their heads with doom and gloom. And then truthfully, at that point, you've lost months, if not years of your life that you won't be able to get back. So when you are in one of those states where you're not feeling you're not feeling like yourself, how do you actually reel yourself back in? What do? You say you talk to your friends, you go seek advice from other people. Do you listen to podcasts? Do you read books? Do you exercise? How do you build yourself back up?
Yeah, all of those things. And I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news in 20 years at least. Nothing good happens there either. But I don't watch the news. I don't even listen to the radio. I listen to podcasts. That way I can curate, what it is that I'm listening to. I do read books. I've done 75 hard. I'm doing 75 hard now. And so there's, reading books, as part of that program, working out twice a day. And that's really, I mean, that's kind of been my life for the last 8 years. Probably since I got into real estate. I work out, every day. And it just that habit alone helps trickle down into the rest of my life, all other areas.
Do you have to be passionate to be successful?
I think you have to be passionate about the outcome or the reason that you're doing it. So I think you have to have passion somewhere. It doesn't have to be about the thing that you're doing.
Passion for the results that come as a result of doing what you don't want to do and you don't want to do at the highest level. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true passion because passion's a fleeting feeling and emotion.
Yeah.
So there are days when you wake up where you don't feel like, doing the real work of real estate, prospecting. I'm sure there are days like that. Like in an average week of 5 work days, how many days do you wake up feeling like you want to prospect? I mean, is it none or one?
Maybe one, feeling like I want to, maybe one. And it's that white space right there that makes me feel that like, oh, I'm looking forward to this because I know I can fill it rather quickly. But yeah, most days, no, I don't necessarily want to prospect. So I flipped the script on that. Again, I'm coming from a place of service or, adding value to somebody's life. So having a conversation where I'm educating them or enlightening them or, trying to help solve whatever problem they have.
So do you ever give yourself a pass? Do you ever wake up in the morning and say, "Up, this day isn't for me. I'm just not going to do the work."
I do, but then I don't. So I give myself a pass and then I do it anyway.
Well, but the funny thing is that's genius because just by giving yourself a pass, you kind of get this sense of relief. And then that hesitation or that little, that feeling inside of you, that negative emotion is dissipated, and then you just get right back to work.
You just get right back to work. And I think that's something I learned a long time ago is you want something to change, accept it. As soon as you accept it, it will change immediately, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. I had a couple other questions, but this is a really important one, I think. So how do you avoid the ups and downs in your income? How do you avoid from going from feast to famine, from busy, 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 taking listings, all the listings, servicing the sellers, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? How do you avoid that?
Stay consistent. I mean, really, it's about consistency and whatever the schedule is, whether it's 3 times a week or 5 times a week, constantly having those conversations, doing that proactive lead generation, that helps, avoid that because just like anything else, right? Whether you're eating healthy, only some of the time, you're not going to reap the benefits. If you're only working out some of the time, you're not going to reap the benefits. The business is the same way. Make sure that you're doing it consistently on a regular basis for a long period of time, and you'll reap the rewards. And that really is what helps, keep that ebb and flow away.
At the end of the day, there's only really 3 to 5 things you have to do at a high level every day. And, there's 3 to 5 things. There's going to be business things and there's going to be personal things. You do those things at a high level every single day, whether you feel like doing it or not. And the accumulation effect, you mentioned all the things: financial, spiritual, familial, educational, all those things. It compounds in such meaningful ways that within like 90 days, 6 months, a year, you're a completely different person. And that's something that when I'm doing podcasts with Julie or just doing this with you, I mean, I do remember you 6 years ago. You were always a rock star. When we originally met, prior to you joining with us at EXP, I do remember the first time we met. It was in Georgetown, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep, I met in person anyway. So the moral of the story is that Ziggy is somebody who is a testament to being of service to other people. She's trying to be of service to all of you guys when she's doing her coaching calls, when she's doing a premier coach, when she's working with her buyers and sellers, and on this podcast. And I'll ask all of you listening and watching to ask yourself how you feel right now. And I bet you we didn't intend to. We certainly intended to educate you, motivate you, and hope you'd get into action. But that's what comes as a natural byproduct of having a conversation whose sole intent is to be of service to other people. You guys get it? We wanted to be of service to all of you. We were talking at a high level, trying to motivate you, educate you, now hoping you're going to get into action because we want to be of service to you. I mean, that's really where it all comes from. It all stems back to that because we're all designed that way, by our maker, to be of service to other people. And that's where it's interesting, Ziggy, when you go on listing appointments and it's somebody in their 60s to their 70s and they're walking through the house and it looks like a time capsule of 1990s when they were raising their kids and everything like that. It really, and you ask people when they're happy, the happiest, it's when they're the busiest, when they're being of service to the most people, when they're doing all these things, because that's how we're all designed. We're designed to want to be needed. We're designed to want to be of purpose. And I think real estate is one of the most profound, beautiful, elegant, incredible opportunities for all of you to be at such a high level of service, but you have to earn the right to be. You're not just going to be able to TikTok your way into having people choose to do business with you. And I hopefully you guys are not like, so just for the record, it's proactive lead generation and passive lead generation. You learn to master the proactive lead generation, as Ziggy has clearly, you'll probably never want to do the passive lead generation. If you start doing the social media, the branding, and the passive lead generation, advertising, and the marketing, if you lead with that and you never learn how to be a proactive lead generator, you're always going to be beholden to the increase of the referral fees, to whether the postcard campaign worked or not, all the rest of it. But if you want to do it, do the proactive lead generation first and never stop doing it. There's not, well, I'm going to do it for the first few years, then I'm just going to ride, no, you got to always do the work. And then if you want to enhance it with passive lead generation, she mentioned postcards, but she also said, listeners, that she's calling her centers of influence and past clients. Hopefully you picked all that up.
Absolutely. And Tim, just one quick point, we're designed to be of service. We're also designed to be successful. And I think, I definitely operate at my highest level when I'm on that path towards success, success of whatever project it is, right? Whatever task it is. And I think that that's something overlooked, when I don't feel like I have a purpose or that I'm on the right path to success, I don't feel my greatest and I don't perform at my highest level. So, but I think people equate, success with money, which is great because we need money too, and at a high level, because again, the more money I have, the better good I can do in my, in my own life, but in my community and those around me. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a mirror, right? So the better quality of life you have, the better quality of the experiences you have, the amount of money you have, it's a direct reflection on the number of people you helped.
Yep.
That's what it is. It's just a direct reflection. So if you don't like where you are financially, there's not a Rubik's Cube of things to solve. Just help more people. How are you going to help more people in real estate? You've got to earn the right to help more people because you got to know what to say and how to say it. You have to learn to be a problem solver. And that's the essence of it. And I think this message, hopefully it's going to resonate with thousands, if not tens of thousands of agents. So Ziggy, if I'm an agent and I'm trying to choose a sponsor to be my sponsor at EXP Realty, or I'm an agent and I'm thinking about upgrading my brokerage experience, obviously EXP Realty is the next natural step for everyone. It's 100% the brokerage that we are, I mean, zealots for at this point, because we have seen the difference in the impact it's had on people's lives. Why did you originally join EXP Realty? Why was it something that, because you joined before EXP Realty was as big as it is now. Where did you see the opportunity then, and where do you see the opportunity now?
Yeah, no, great question. I had found EXP in 2016 when I was looking for um the next logical step, because I was, with a large franchise that are, photo or paper copies they were just a mess. They were so archaic, and I was like, there's got to be a better way where I can keep more money and that's technologically advanced. I found EXP then, but I was brand new, and they were reasonably new as well. But as soon as you gave them the thumbs up, I was like, Tim, what do I have to do to join? Because they're technologically focused, they're on the edge, on the cutting edge every single day, and anything that ever presents itself, we are ahead of the game. And that's something that I see over and over and over, whether it's the buyer agreement or whatever it is. And the communication and leadership that we have available to us is just astounding to me.
That's one of the things I love what Glenn did, is that you can get a hold of Glenn, the founder, billionaire founder of EXP. You can message him in Workplace. He might not get back with you the same day, but he's going to always respond to you. It's like a flat management thing. So there's no like, the experience that a new agent has is going to be different than somebody who's a top producing agent. You want to bet? I mean, the nature of the culture at EXP is like, I don't even know how Glenn did it, to be honest. It's just extraordinary. But I'm gonna toss this out too, since we are entrepreneurs, we are running businesses. EXP offers such an expansive opportunity for you to earn income from more than just transacting. And if all you want to do is join EXP and transact, obviously Premier Coaching, Ziggy as your Premier Coach, we're going to get you there. But I think as you mature as a business person, you're going to realize that you wish you would have created multiple streams of income. So you're going to have transactional income, buying and selling real estate, but also the revenue share opportunity, the equity opportunities you have at EXP, extraordinary. And revenue share is something like, if you think about it from a perspective of, well, someday you're going to want to be rich, and rich is where your money works for you. You no longer have to work for your money, where you're having enough money coming in passively, maybe appreciation of assets and the rest of it, so that effectively you no longer have to work for money if you chose not to. How are you going to do it? If your goal is to indeed be free, how are you going to do it? Rental properties is what Julie and I tried to do for decades. And we did it. But if we had to do it all over again, maybe we'd buy a few, but we wouldn't be buying dozens like we did. We would be building EXP revenue share. We would be focusing in on the opportunity that's EXP, because it does create, through the revenue share model, it does create a way for you to be rich, where your money works for you. You no longer have to work for your money, like nothing I've ever seen in any industry, by the way. So hopefully it opens all of your minds, at least makes you curious. So if you want to learn more about EXP Realty, I strongly encourage all of you to text Ziggy, the one and only Ziggy. And she looks nothing like the cat, I have to say. Maybe a little bit in the hair. So Ziggy, if they wanted to text you to learn more about having you as their sponsor at EXP Realty, how can they do so?
Yeah, they can text me at 914-474-4625.
All right, say it slower.
914-474-4625.
All right, there you go, listeners. Hopefully you took pages of notes from today's presentation. And Ziggy, thank you very much for being part of Julie and I's lives. It has truly been Julie and I talk about you all the time, by the way, and the students love you in Premier Coaching, but it is so fun to have been on this journey with you, to see you go from basically fledgling agent to the very consistent person that you are now. You're an inspiration, honestly. You probably don't think of yourself that way, but you are. You're somebody who's going to be a bellwether. When someone's thinking, you're going to be like one of those, what would Ziggy do types? Like if someone's going to be struggling. I mean, we just gave an hour of really drilled down valuable information. We demystified a lot of we didn't talk about funnels or branding and marketing. We said, this is what you have to do. This is how you have to do it. Everyone can do everything we just said. Does not matter how old you are, does not matter what you look like, does not matter where original country you came from, does not matter what your education level is, does not matter what your IQ is. Every single one of you can do what we just prescribed for all of you to do. So I strongly encourage you, if you're not involved in Premier Coaching, get involved in Premier Coaching ASAP. In the meantime, Ziggy, thank you very much for being a Harris certified coach, member of our EXP Realty group, and a longtime friend. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Have a fantastic day, everyone. That was great. Good job.
Thank you. That was fun. Good stuff.
Yeah, you're a natural. Hey, I
Yes,
gotta
thank
go.
you.
I'm a minute late for my next one.
All right, go get it. Have
All right,
fun.
see you, bye.
Good
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.